When retirees must update their estate plan, and hint, most people wait far too long. We're joined here by the ever incredible, always amazing attorney Liz Nolin. Thanks for joining us here today, Liz.
Thanks for having me, Mike, especially with that introduction.
I'm so confused. I thought that if I met with one of you attorney types once, went onto LegalZoom, something similar, I created an estate plan. It's set it and forget it. And now you're telling me every so often I have to revisit this thing. I mean, it was already harrowing enough, right, to create it in the first place. Why do I have to keep chipping away at this thing?
I know. I'm sorry. Sometimes there are events that arise in your life where the best thing to do is update your estate plan. I know you want to be one and done with us, but sometimes life happens and you've got to come back and see us again.
It's like maintaining a house. It's going to need maintenance, right?
That roof's going to need replacing at some point.
So let's break it down here and talk about one of the first reasons, which would be retiring. Why does retiring trigger changes possibly to your estate plan?
That's a great question, Mike. Retirement is one of the best times to actually revisit your estate plan because your life has changed. Anytime there's a big life change, that's the point to look at it. Once you've retired, that's when you kind of know more or less, this is what the nest egg is. This is how much we have right now, what it's projected to be as we get older. You guys do a great job in making those kinds of projections for your clients. But once we kind of have our arms around how much you're going to have and what you're dealing with during retirement, we can start getting into more advanced estate planning to try and do things like mitigate taxes. When you're on a fixed income, taxes really matter. So estate planning is a great way for us to potentially reduce taxes that you owe. Secondly, we might be looking in conjunction with our retirement, things like Medicare, Medicaid, public benefits. Estate plans can help us actually accomplish those goals relatively easily. And then finally, going through retirement, now you've got a little bit more time on your hands. You can really identify, is this trust how I want it? Are the people I named as beneficiaries really who I want having my money when I'm gone? And also, are the trustees I've named responsible enough now that I really look at them to be able to administer what I've got left?
I love that. So you can actually fine tune and get a little bit more tactical. Those are great points. Why don't we get into number 2, which is changes to our health? How does that affect the plans that we've already laid?
Health changes are one of the biggest reasons that you should update your estate plan. Estate plans aren't just wills and trusts. That's a big part of it. But your estate plan is also made up of a lot of medical documents. And when a health matter arises, first, you need to make sure that the person you've named as your agent who will make the decisions on your behalf is somebody who is really emotionally equipped to do that. And every single person is very different. Some people aren't a great option for a medical agent. So maybe it's a great time to update it. But also, when a medical emergency arises, that can sometimes shake someone's idea of what they wanted for medical treatment altogether. Suddenly, mortality seems a little bit more real. So maybe you made some really severe decisions when you were in your 30s saying, don't give me life support under any circumstances. But as you age and things progress, maybe you feel a little bit more like you'd like to fight. So when those medical issues pop up, it's just a great time to refresh everything. Maybe you end up not changing anything at all, but it at least is good for you to know what's articulated in your documents.
Okay, that's a great point. We're about halfway through, and we've got the biggest reason for updating your stuff coming right up, so stick with us. Let's deal with one of the more somber ones, though, first here, Liz, which is I might need to revisit my plan if I've lost a spouse. Can you break that down?
Absolutely. For the vast number of my married clients, and when I say vast, I mean we're talking 95 to 99% of my married clients, their spouse is listed as their primary everyone to make decisions for them. It's their co-trustee, potentially, the person making all their medical documents, their agent for their financial durable power of attorney. If your spouse is the only one listed on those documents and they're gone, now there's this big void. Who's going to step in? So I am very empathetic too. Death happens. Last thing you want to do is go see a lawyer. But if a spouse passes away, it's a time you really need to look at your estate plan to make sure that you've got provisions of who comes next. Life keeps going on even though the death has occurred.
So speaking of life going on here, that brings us to number 4, which is that sometimes either through remarriage or grandchildren, there are new characters involved potentially in our estate plan. And to a certain extent, I'm sure this is a little bit obvious, but can you speak a little bit to how that should change how you think about the plan that you already have in place when you introduce some new people?
Absolutely. And this is my favorite reason for changing a plan, because usually it means something really good has happened. We either have a new generation, a new marriage, there's more people that you're spending your life with. This is a fantastic time to update your estate plan because you want to include those new cast of characters into what you've already got. It doesn't mean you have to completely take away the people who were there beforehand, especially in cases like blended families. You really want to now include potentially stepkids into your plan, and not to get too technical, but it really depends on how documents are written. For example, when I write trusts, I use the legal term issue rather than children, which specifically excludes stepchildren. So if you want to now integrate stepchildren into your estate plan, we need to proactively do that because they're not automatically going to be considered the same level as your own biological children.
That's great. I love this last mistake, or I guess prompt for people to revisit their plan, because I think it hits people out of their blind spot. They don't see it as a necessary prompt, but it really is. And, what I often say is that retirees are like dandelions on a breeze. You might retire in one state, but you end up somewhere else.
Yes.
People tend to go somewhere like warm or sunny, right? More tepid climate. If I'm leaving one state for another, why does that necessitate maybe revisiting my plan?
Moving states is one of the biggest reasons to update the estate plan because every single state has its own little intricacies in the law. So, for example, one of the big ones we've got here in New Hampshire, one of my favorite clauses, the no contest provision, which its spirit is to stop people from suing wills and trusts in court to challenge the provisions. A place that a lot of my clients end up in is the good old state of Florida. Florida has held no contest clauses are not valid. So if you've got that kind of a New Hampshire document with New Hampshire terms, and now you're moved to Florida, Florida's not automatically going to apply everything you've got.
So what
written.
works in one state doesn't necessarily work in another.
That's exactly it. So
Okay.
you want to update every time you move jurisdictions to make sure all your documents are in line with where you live now.
It's great advice. If you like this video, check out one of our past videos, which is that medical planning matters more than you think. We'll see you next time.